There is a real lot of misinformation going on.
Was it funny? No.
All our freedoms are being eroded. Freedoms are being eroded, people. You got to stand up.
I agreed the f*** out of it. I'm not interested in laughs.
Because they will kill you for just what you have. How many youths out there right now would rob you?
Ours is a land of hope and glory, a proud union with a past to be proud of.
Which I know very well, so I've lived in London most of my grown-up life.
And I think he just continues to incite hatred and prejudice, and I think he should apologise.
But, and here is the big but, the argument was that once this had run for a bit, one would get benefits which could be spread more widely through the community, and that one would then actually have wealth to help those people who couldn't help themselves. So what I would want to do very much on this is, on the one side, to bite the bullet and say, yes, there is, in certain respects, a deliberate decision to go for a form of social organization which has a greater degree of inequality in it, but where this is seen as being an engine for the production of other things that are worthwhile, I want to relate these two things together, such that, if Chris possibly says that the inequality that's involved in making such a move is unacceptable, I'd be interested to see whether there is some other engine which could be hoped to generate the more positive consequence.
Right? And these youths who are so red high, covetous, bad-minded, envious, because they will kill you for just what you have. How many youths out there right now would rob you of your mobile phone to go and sell that to buy a pair of trainers in one of the shops?
There are lots of young people here. You tell me.
Plenty of them out there would do that.
I personally think...
When a person loses track of the dignity of the human soul and begins to judge others not on the basis of their being persons, but on the basis of race, creed, economic status, that is prejudice.
Something seems more impressive if it was written by a retard. Like the Quran.
Hey, I'm speaking. I think Stop and Search is very important because I went to school in early 2008 and stuff. When I finished school, that's when Stop and Search kind of stopped. And since then, I feel like it's just got more out of control. And the younger generation, we just cannot tame them because there's something called social media. And I feel like as parents, you need to open up a dialogue, have a conversation with your kids, because I think words are so powerful and words can steer this knife crime war into a different energy and a different space. Thank you.
Okay, let's hear from some more of your views.
Well, I have found out that if somebody distinguishes between two white men, it is not prejudice. But if somebody distinguishes between a white man and a colored man, it is prejudice.
I would define prejudice as a rigid opinion formed about a certain thing before there has been a just examination of the facts.
Eli.
Security.
Eli has crippling OCD. He sometimes washes his hands up until they bleed. But you would too if you had to touch his dick.
Excellent.
Yeah, my hands bleed. Just doing an impression of your gynecologist.
It is astonishing to think that the then leadership of the council thought that somehow this was going to be a threat to the city.
The monarch is the fount of honor and grants all royal and noble titles, including those to their own family members.
Because what it was a tremendous opportunity for the city.
And of course, London doesn't belong to Londoners anymore. I mean to say, you walk up here, how many times do you see people speaking English? You think you're in a foreign land.
You're a pink person.
Might as well face it, Judith, here we are. I feel scarlet.
And you know, so people have sometimes said to me, "Well, why don't you say sorry for the advert?" Well, I thought it was stupid at the time, and actually, rather than saying sorry, I think what we should be saying is thank you.
I beg your pardon. Do you have an account with us? Account? No.
So who is and is not granted a royal title is at the monarch's discretion.
Oh, you're a shareholder, perhaps? Well, I'm a citizen, if that's what you mean. Oh, you mean client? Look, I don't want to sound stupid, but I get back to England, I find my car's been stolen.
In the 13th century, warrior King Edward I conquered Wales and spiked Prince Llewellyn ap Gruffudd's head on the Tower of London. Edward then named his own son, the future Edward II, Prince of Wales.
Peter, you've been away? Did you perhaps miss the privatisation of the police force?
But usually their children are titled princes and princesses.
This is now a branch office of Brit Law PLC. Would you like to fill out a form?
What the fuck? Oh no!
That dissolves on contact with air.
The title of prince originally meant the ruler of any area. For example, the ruler of Wales.
Since it went onto the news last time, we got a letter the week after saying everyone has to move out now within 10 months. Now that we've been outed on BBC News and people realise how bad we've left you and it's shamed us, now we're going to accept you as human beings and find you somewhere to live.
Thus, deep down it can be said that we all know the manner in which we deceive ourselves. Nietzsche suggested that one way we can make our faults more palatable is by viewing the development of our character as analogous to the creation of a work of art. In its initial stages, a work of art contains numerous flaws. However, an artist who deceives himself regarding these flaws never creates anything of worth. Instead, a true artist must learn to observe the flaws and make the necessary corrections.
Moreover, no free society will ever see equal distributions for anything, even if individuals started from the same place. And Madam Deputy Speaker, we don't. We don't in character, we don't socially, we don't genetically, we don't economically, we don't in terms of upbringing or geographical opportunity or education, we don't in health and diet, we don't in career paths, we don't in our preferences. These may be inequalities, but these aren't evidence of discrimination.
The truth is, all we are now is a product of all that came before, good, bad and ugly.
So we were wondering how the General felt about him and me, sir.
America has promised the Negro real citizenship.
So whilst it's right to celebrate the historic contribution of black, white and Asian Britons, let's first and foremost celebrate what we share. Let's celebrate all of our yesterdays, for unless we do, all our tomorrows will be poorer and poisoned.
And a fair chance to make the best of himself. When the army needs Americans to fight for the country, it takes Negroes along with whites. Everyone's treated the same when it comes to dying.
Magna Carta, democracy, the agrarian industrial revolutions, the uniting of our kingdom, free trade, the abolition of slavery, emancipation, the defeat of Hitler and fascism, freedom of speech and plurality of media, and in recent days, thank goodness, race relations and equal opportunities. The constitution of our country consists of waves of people coming and going over millennia.
But the major threat for them for all their lives in this country has been represented by the police, the blues, the men in uniform on the beat, who humiliate them every day, who pick them up on sus, who take them out to the station, who beat them. They all have, every 1 out of 4 black youths has a story to tell.
But 18% of British Muslims do sympathise with the use of violence against those who mock the Prophet.
And in your opinion, should any publication have the right to publish pictures
that make fun of the Prophet.
No.
78% of British Muslims say publications should not have the right to show pictures of the Prophet. 87% say there should be no right to make fun of the Prophet.
Eli is still very religious, so whenever there's a mass shooting, he sends thoughts and prayers and fan mail to the shooter.
Once Prince Charles becomes king, as his grandchildren, Archie and his younger sister, should be granted the titles of prince and princess.
Eli, you dusty child of neglect. Your father is a Mennonite priest, which means you are the only little boy he's never hugged.
Headshot.
That's true. I'm Mennonite. I'm surprised you're not Amish, the way you can suck the electricity out of a room.
Individual people are sometimes above and sometimes below the line that researchers from outside might come in and call poverty.
Sure that only those with valid roadway passes use the street.
But that's the Queen's Highway, for goodness sake. Surely I can use that.
Queen's... Oh, you have shares in the Royal Family PLC. That would be quite sufficient.
No, of course I haven't.
Well then, Peter, I'm afraid I must ask you to come with me.
No. What do you think about Scotland?
Never been.
Do you know what? I quite like to go to Scotland. Of course, I got nothing against them.
Cold.
So. Cold. What about Ireland?
I'm half Irish, but I've never been.
Perfect, man. Thank you so much, brother. Have a nice day. Have a good one.
Not particularly. Yeah, I can't think of any that I dislike. No.
Anything
not
too
really.
hot. Anything too hot. Like anything above 40 degrees. I don't like that.
Like, Egypt. Egypt? Yeah. Very crowded there. Yeah, but for study there is very good.
In Cairo?
Yeah, in Cairo.
Studied in Cairo?
Yeah.
No, I don't think... I went to... no, I would say no. I'm not really a fan of the States.
And so the Army wouldn't be true to America if it didn't try to live up to the promises about an equal chance.
You mean that we have to get over our prejudices?
You don't get over a prejudice that easily. There's no use pretending we're different from what we are, but we can try to live up to our American promises.
Dina, you Gaza stripper. Your father left you when you were 7 years old, and you have a bad relationship with your mom. Dina, you should be grateful for your mother for all she's done.
That was a general opinion. Maybe not now, I hope certainly not.
General opinion, but, well, when it's not, it's, sort of wrong to say that they're lazy. Let's just say that they've got the very flat feet that they can't lift them up. Because you've got to consider, for example, the climate in most of the regions in Asia. Well, it's just but natural. You can't just work with all the warm climate around you. Of course, you'd always feel like fanning yourself, or going to an air-conditioned theater or something else where it's cold.
Is there not only this difference of climate that explains a difference in tempo, but is there a difference in philosophy, too, that perhaps we in the West haven't appreciated, I wonder?
Well, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know exactly as to that. But I'm sure that democracy could have evolved on its own. It was not injected by you into our veins. We did not require that injection. I'm sure we could have done it in time. Perhaps I never deny that we owe you a great deal of things. But the trouble is that you take so patronizing an air, think that all that you have bestowed on us is sheer gratitude.
It's true, yes. Is it fair, our time's almost up, can I quickly ask you what the dominant prejudice in your country is today? Would it correspond to your own? What is the dominant prejudice in India today, would you say?
Cheap flights carry hundreds of thousands of Muslims to visit relatives every year, and the internet and satellite television bring the ancestral attitudes into British front rooms every day.
Well, the caste system, as I said, is rapidly wearing out, so that wouldn't be the dominant thing. I have not noticed any great Indo-Muslim feeling in my country, but as in most other colonies of the British Empire, there is definitely a prejudice against things American. This, I am sure, would be found in every British colony.
Is that something you share with Sarah?
Yes, definitely. There is this feeling of anti-Americanism in my country, which I don't know whether you'd call prejudice, because I think it's based in some respects upon what we have seen of what we dislike, perhaps, in the American foreign policy.
And I didn't expect to see that in the UK, in the middle of the UK. I didn't expect to see a segregated community, close communities, living by their own rules, and these rules, unfortunately, have grave consequences. And these consequences go directly to the rights of a woman. Women in these councils are being treated as minors in perpetual need for a guardianship, a male guardianship.
Well, people in Pakistan are very touchy on the subject of colonialism, and with the United States aid that is coming there, they are thinking that whether they've just received their independence from the British and they are being now selling their freedom to America. But after studying in American schools, I found that Americans don't have any territorial ambitions, and that what they are doing is only for our own good and at the request of our own government. And so that was the prejudice that I had been under, and which has been clearing up.
But it really didn't clear up until you came here?
Yes.
This is fascinating.
And I've been to a convent, and I've been taught that if I do something wrong, you go to hell. And if you do something right, you go to heaven. And when I came up later, I learned something about Hinduism, and I've been trying to compare both of them, and I found that I've been disillusioned completely, and I've come to the extent of questioning everything that I've been doing.
But then, Nalini, why do you do any good in this world? If you're not going to be rewarded or punished, why do you do good things? Why do you avoid the evil things?
Do you think that everything man is doing now is just because he's going to be rewarded in the
Yes, at least in my religion. I avoid the wrong things because I know after life I will be punished.
Just because of that? You do these
not
things
not
just
only
for
because
fear?
of, not for fear, but because deep in me I want to do the good thing. But it also has to do with religion too. It has an effect. I can say that frankly. As a person, it does affect me.
See, my friend from Malaya is very glad that Malaya will get their independence next year. She's very proud, and she tells everybody that Malaya is going to be independent next year. Do you think that if you do that to the other places, then you will make them satisfied? Well, we hope it will make them satisfied. Every country wants to be independent. That's only natural. But there comes a point somebody to decide whether they're ready to receive their independence. But I know we could go off on another long argument about that.
So why are the views and values of many British Muslims still so out of line with the rest of society? Well, part of the answer probably lies in their ancestral backgrounds. Pakistan and Bangladesh account for the majority. Many are from Africa, some from the Middle East. The kinds of attitudes revealed by our survey might seem outlandish here, but in many of those countries, they are completely unremarkable.
And from Libya, you come to Syria, to Iraq, to Afghanistan, to Somalia. I mean,
they did from China all the way to Spain.
But I actually hate it when people judge Muslims. Like you're not responsible for 9/11. You were actually heartbroken when you found out about it earlier that year. Boy, your people were mad about the election. They were furious that a woman was running. Some people say that Dina could become the best female comic in the city. But it's messed up to even say it like that, right? Like, why does she have to be the best female comic in the city? Why can't she just be the 148th best comic in the city?
The sort of Britain that we want is a Britain where the Sharia is implemented.
Nigga, what the fuck is going on here? What the fuck now?
Whether it be France, whether it be other countries, whether it be European countries.
so there is a serious political problem.
How is
can now deny just safety.
If you want to change something, you have to be a part of something. You have to get involved, you have to educate yourself on it, and you have to make a change from inside. It's all good and well having opinions saying no one listens, but if you're not there to be listened to, who's going to listen?
During the war, I rested my trust in the British people.
Because they will kill you for just what you have. How many youths out there right now would rob you